You just had to make it a little more awkward, didn't you?
Hello.
Hey guys, welcome to Karate Talk with Shihan and Shihan. We're definitely having a lot of fun with this series, if you guys couldn't tell. We're on episode number 8 now, so we're climbing. We're almost at double digits. Craziness.
Ooh, we're going to run out of fingers. I don't know what to do after that.
Yeah, I stopped doing that after 5. So anyways, welcome to this week's episode of Karate Talk. And since it's part of our curriculum that we're doing this cycle, and also the month of October is Bully Awareness Month, we're going to be talking about what are some tactics for combating bullies, or the anti-bullying training that we do here in our school. So we just want to give you guys a little bit of a view on how we do that from a parent's perspective. Also, maybe if there's a kid out there watching, we're going to be putting this up on YouTube. So hopefully, these tips can help out. So let's get right into the thick of it, because we always start with what is bullying, because there's a lot of common misconceptions out there. Somebody points a finger at me one time or says a bad word to me, then all of a sudden they're a bully, and we don't want our students to jump to that conclusion too quickly, but of course want to have the right knowledge so that if it does happen, they can be safe. So what is bullying?
So bullying is, first of all, it's a behavior, right? The thing we want to make sure that we're understanding is that bullying is a behavior, and we don't want to label people as a bully, right? Bullying isn't like a person, it's a choice and it's a behavior. Okay. And that's a big part of combating bullying and trying to turn the tide so far as make sure there's less of it happening, is that we have to allow those people who are potential bullies or have engaged in that kind of behavior, we need to recognize that they have the ability to stop or change their ways, right? So if we label them as a bully in our heads, that sort of almost cuts off that possibility, right? So bullying is a behavior, it's not a person, all right? And what it is it's somebody taking advantage of an imbalance of power to be hurtful or take advantage of another person, either emotionally, mentally, physically, socially, right? There's a lot of different angles. It's not just pushing and punching. Right. It's also name calling, and it's also hazing, and there's a lot of different things that it can be. But two defining qualities are that it's repetitive and it's purposeful. Okay. It doesn't happen by accident. There's a kind of a targeted mindset to it, and it is repetitive. It keeps happening over and over. It's not an isolated incident. So when we make sure that kids are understanding that, they understand what the word means and they can use it accurately. So when they're communicating problems to school administrators and parents and karate instructors like ourselves, we know that what we're talking about, right? Everybody's on the same page.
And they know how to identify it properly, like you said, with the right amount of intensity, I guess. So if someone's just picking on them once, maybe they could go ask for help, but just say, hey, someone's being mean to me, and do you have any advice, rather than going to level 10 right out of the gate, where it's that person's bullying me, they're picking on me, they're being mean. It could just be maybe that kid had a bad day or something like that. So we want to make sure that our students don't have this this false alert out there all the time, but they are able to identify the situation. So and the other thing you talked about that kind of jumped out to me was that imbalance of power. And that's where you really see it. You see, usually bigger, stronger people picking on a weaker person, or a smarter person picking on a not smart person, or someone who is not as smart or gifted as them. So there's lots of, higher and lower at that point.
Yeah, there's age, right? With kids, like being in 7 is like a thing versus being 6. Social position, right? If somebody is kind of high up on whatever the social ladder is perceived to be, that's also another imbalance of power. And it's not just kids, of course. We can talk about it with adults, right? Workplace imbalances of power, things like that. It's a pretty wide-ranging concept.
Right. So there's never an avenue you couldn't look at to be safe. So the next thing is, like you talked about, that the person isn't a bad person. They're making poor choices. Yeah. And so we always talk to our kids, why do people bully? Why is somebody like that? And a lot of times they come up with fabulous answers.
The kids are smart. They
way better answers than we can feed them, So a couple of opportunities for someone to be a bully is maybe they're just getting bullied by somebody that's older and a different status quo than they are, and it's kind of going down the ladder, and so they're the next one on the stepping stool. So what are some other opportunities that somebody might choose bullying over being kind?
So really what it comes down to is that there's something off, right? There's something that they don't have, that they feel like bullying is the way to get it. And sometimes a lot of that comes down to control, right? Something in their lives they don't feel like they're in control of, and it makes them angry and frustrated and depressed. and they get it in their heads that trying to make somebody else feel worse than they do somehow makes them feel better. Now, we all know that that's not true,
right?
But some people do get sort of stuck in that mode, and that's what can be the seed of bullying type of behavior. And again, like you said, if they're getting it from them here, and then they're going to take it out on somebody else, right? They're just kind of kicking it down the chain, so to speak.
Right. And it could even be not somebody outside of their family. Even maybe they're getting in trouble from their family members, and then they're passing it on to their little brother and sister, and then the little brother and sister goes to school and is now being mean to their friends or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And especially those younger kids, they don't know why they're feeling like that. They don't know why most of the time. Sometimes they do. Sometimes kids have that intuitive nature to understand, but a lot of times, even adults, they don't know why they feel that frustration, that anxiety, and they just act instead, or react, I guess, rather than taking the time to step back, figure out what's going on, and remember that it has nothing to do with you. I'm talking to you, but I'm angry about what's happening over here, and now all of a sudden that's being projected onto you.
And unfortunately, and this is a separate but related issue, is sometimes it's a behavior that is learned by watching, just like a lot of things, right? If they see bullying behavior and they don't have an alternative model to follow, some kids will just fall into that because that's all they know, right? And sometimes it's just attention. Sometimes they just want friends, right? I want to make friends. I don't know how to make friends. And this is all I've seen is this kind of behavior, so that's what I'll do. Right. And I'll get attention any way that I can.
Yeah, or they have one friend that it worked for, and then now they're trying to do the same thing with other people. Like, there are a lot of people that sarcasm and teasing and stuff like that is appropriate between two people, but a lot of times it's not, especially when it's new people that you haven't met, or you're trying to engage with them on a different level. That stuff doesn't bridge that gap or build rapport, as we talk about a lot. So, yeah, unfortunately, bullying is just a trait that you learn, from negativity, or either bad influences, or that you've created this persona because of how you're feeling and stuff like that. But we want to remember that those people are good people still. We just want to help guide them in the right direction of being positive and being kind, and maybe even inviting them into our circle and helping them show the way. So now this is where it gets tricky, because we have so many ways that we can go about this, and there's a lot of different ideas behind it. But what do we do if we are bullied? If whether it was an adult or a child, or I've experienced it before or never experienced it before, where could I go, or what would maybe be my first couple of steps when talking about someone that's actively bullying me? It's repetitive. They're obviously trying to do it to hurt my feelings or hurt my person. Where do I go next?
And there's a lot of kind of common sense answers that can start to form a solution, right? But wow, this is a complicated subject, right?
Absolutely.
And it's difficult. And in our training programs, we do try to boil it down to make it as simple as possible, yet still realistic, still effective. So if a child is being bullied, there's a number of ways that they can address it. But a big part of it is the ability to sort of assert themselves in some way, right? And martial arts and other things where you are learning to be more confident in yourself. Just kind of the attitude itself is going to be helpful. But as somebody is recognizing that they're having a problem, right, and it's coming from a particular person, and it's repetitive like that, they need to be able to assert themselves in the moment. And sometimes, for some people, that means very straightforward, standing up tall, looking them in the eye, all right, and telling them to stop, all right? And maybe having a bit of a script is a pretty good idea, right? Being able to look somebody in the eye and say, hey, what you're doing right now is bullying, right? You've done it before, and you keep trying to hurt my feelings, right? You need to stop. And saying something, not those exact words, but saying something along those lines, that's going to work for some kids.
And I think on top of that, not to interrupt you, but the confidence that you get from practicing that speech over and over is going to help you dramatically, because we get into a panic situation, whether it's a bully or a car situation. If you don't have a lot of experience, it's hard to make that snap decision. You could either say something that you don't want to say, or you could end up kind of clamming up and not saying anything at all, because you don't have that repetitions over and over.
And actually what not to do when you're being bullied is another subject we can go into too. But if that's the first plan, that's our first step. That's one possible first step. Now, some people and personalities, it makes more sense for them to be a little bit more circumspect about it, I guess. Okay, so they can a little bit fight fire with fire and sort of use humor and or laughter to sort of laugh it off.
Okay.
All right, so somebody's picking on me about my shirt, and I make a joke about my own shirt, and that sort of takes that power that the bully is using or leverage. It kind of takes it away, right? Sure. In the bully's head, it's like, oh, I wanted a kind of an upset reaction, and they just laughed it off. Well, that's not what I want from this, so maybe that's gonna discourage me from continuing the behavior.
Right. And then going into, actually that makes me think a lot about our self-defense talk that we did a couple weeks ago, and what we do at our Live Safe training is that most of the time, whatever predator behavior, whether it's malicious and trying to be mean or it's trying to hurt somebody, they usually don't have an alternate, plan. Once their plan is kind of foiled, it's like, oh, I don't know where to go from here, and so I'm going to go find something else.
Right.
Or someone else, or a different victim.
Different target, right? So plan A didn't work on target A. Well, I'll do plan A on target B. Right. And those are just a couple of the examples of what someone might do in the moment and what we train on sometimes in the classes. But in any case, right, if we're going to, on big picture, beyond that one, a single instance, if we're going to affect bullying and make it go away, there needs to be some sort of reporting process. So we teach the kids that whatever they do in the moment, do their best job, but they always need to go and report it. They need to find some authority figure like a teacher or a principal at school, and they need to calmly tell them what happened. And they need to continue to do that as long as there's a problem.
Yeah, and if there's no reporting or anything, nobody knows there's an issue. And then if it blows up or gets really big, all of a sudden it's like, well, I didn't know this was a thing, and now all of a sudden it's gone so far that someone's gotten hurt, or there's really not a lot of help that can be done at that point in time. So absolutely make sure that you're getting help. And of course, the difference between tattletaling and getting help is that emotional base, so not going in there crying and being upset about it, which is understandable. Someone's trying to hurt you physically or emotionally. We get that.
It's scary.
Being able to calm down and get through it. And also families out there, just having conversations about this stuff makes a big difference, and allowing kids to come report that stuff to you or talk about it. Because you never know, there might be a conversation that comes up and there is somebody that is giving them some problems, and it hasn't gotten really big yet, but it's something that we can take care of, or you guys as parents can take care of with your kids at home before the problem gets too big. So definitely making sure they're asserting themselves, good posture, good confidence, working on a script to say, and then of course leaving and reporting. And we always tell our students, if it absolutely comes down to defending yourself, the goal is to defend yourself and get out, not to stay in a fight. So if someone's like pushing you, punching you, kicking you, whatever, the goal is to not get hurt, defend whatever you can, and then get out of that situation. Because if I had someone picking on me, I'm not going to stand there and fight with them, even though I could. That's not the goal. The goal is to get away, get out of that situation, diffuse it, because in fights, everyone gets hurt, whether it's physically, emotionally, whatever. So we want to try and stay out of the fight as much as we can.
Yeah, really no winners there.
Right. So what we're going to be doing, I'm actually going to split this up into a second segment. We're going to go over next week. We're going to talk about what to do when others are being bullied, and then what not to do when it comes to bullying. So I think we touched a lot on kind of what to do if it's personally happening to me, and kind of address what is bullying. But I think next week it would be a good topic to go over kind of what to do if I see my friends getting bullied, because it's one level to take care of myself, but now how can I step up for my friend that doesn't have the same skills or confidence that I do, and they're always getting picked on. Maybe I've never gotten picked on, but now I want to help out my friend, Jimmy or whatever.
How do you do that in an intelligent and effective way?
Right, and don't get yourself in trouble, and don't make yourself subject to the bullying and stuff like that. So there's a lot of tricks that go into it.
And I'm going to jump in here and note for everyone out there that what we're talking about, we're not just, this is not just our expert opinion off the top of our head. This is actually part of our training program that was developed by Dave Kovar and some of the people under him here at Kovar's, and is the core of the organization Martial Artists Against Bullying. And so I wanted to plug that real quick. So anybody out there that's interested in a program for training people how to deal with bullying, how to make it stop in schools, you can go to the website, maab.com, Martial Artists Against Bullying, or Google it, and there's a lot of really, really good information on that website.
Right, and if you guys, feel free to send us a message or something. We'll gladly share the information with you so you can go over it with your family, or stop on by and check out our classes. We're going to be doing anti-bullying stuff the whole cycle, so the next 5 weeks. And then speaking of plugs, we got these Buddy Day cards right here, just because we have an anti-bully seminar that's coming up at the beginning of November. I believe the date on that is November 9th. So I'll put that in the description below. There'll be a link to the actual event and stuff like that. If this video is already passed because it's going up on YouTube, feel free to reach out to us. We're doing those on a regular basis as well as our self-defense clinics. We want to make sure that our community is safe. But anyways, thanks again, Shihan, for being here. We really appreciate it. I've had a lot of fun with these talks.
Yes,
they are fun, but they're also, I really enjoy getting the information out there. Because like you said, this isn't stuff that we're just making up off the cuff, right? Kiyoshi is, this is his 40th year of teaching martial arts, and he's spent a lot of time really talking to experts and
doing the research.
Doing the research and taking this information, putting it together in a package that's able for people to use, but of course there's always more out there, so feel free to do your own research, but hopefully we'll be back next week and we'll talk a little bit more about bullying. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys later.